Identity theft has changed in ways most people have not caught up with. It used to be about someone stealing your credit card number and hoping you would not notice for a few hours. Now it is about criminals building a digital clone of you. They use your data, your photos, your voice, your behavior, and anything they can find after a breach to impersonate you convincingly enough to fool banks, payment platforms, and even government systems. Privacy and online privacy sit under pressure every time your private data leaks in a breach. Cybersecurity and basic security controls cannot keep up with what is now an industrial process. A cyber threat today is not a single attacker. It is an ecosystem feeding on data. So, what do you do? The shift happened quietly. What once looked like a simple scam has become a complete takeover of digital identity. Criminals build full synthetic profiles, generate fake identity documents, craft deepfake face scans, and produce cloned voices that pass through verification systems. They rely on the fact that huge amounts of data are floating around the internet. Some of that data was collected by companies you never heard of. Some came from a service you used years ago and forgot existed. Once a breach exposes that private data, an attacker can reshape it into a version of you. Generative AI is the accelerator. Reports from security researchers show how criminals use Gen AI tools to produce realistic digital forgeries. These forgeries include identity documents with crisp watermarks, consistent layouts, and believable signatures. More concerning is the surge in biometric fraud. Deepfake face scans now make up a large share of identity fraud attempts in sectors like crypto, payments, and digital banking. Attackers can generate a convincing face, hold it up to a verification system, and walk into an account as if they were the real owner. Detection is an arms race, and criminals are gaining ground. The reason they can do this starts with the modern data harvesting ecosystem. Everywhere you go online, you leave traces. Websites collect behavioral data. Trackers follow you across devices. Brokers buy and sell information about your habits, your interests, and your movements. When a breach happens, all of that becomes fuel for identity theft. Criminals do not hack their way into your life. They reconstruct it from what companies collected about you. The weakest link is often not the victim. It is the system that held their data and failed to secure it properly. To understand how that plays out, you only have to look at real cases. An Australian example from Melbourne revealed how one man used fake driver licenses and stolen documents to open online accounts. Police discovered a set of tools for fabricating documents that looked official enough to pass basic checks. This was not a sophisticated cybercriminal syndicate. It was an individual who had access to AI-powered templates and printing equipment. It shows how accessible identity forgery has become. What once required specialist printers and insider access can now be done with off-the-shelf software and guides downloaded from the internet. Cases like this are only one side of the problem. The other side is full account takeover at scale. A SIM swap is one of the most effective methods. The attacker calls a telco, pretends to be the victim, and persuades the support staff to move the victim's number to a new SIM. Suddenly all SMS-based authentication flows to the criminal. Password resets, bank login codes, verification messages, everything goes to the attacker. They lock out the real owner and spread into every connected service, from email to cloud storage to social media. This works because the telco acts as the single gatekeeper for identity, and that gatekeeper can be tricked with the right script and enough confidence. The most devastating identity theft cases hit ordinary individuals who did nothing obviously wrong. The story of one Australian victim, Sarah Luke, is a clear example. Her data and the data of her children were stolen in a breach at a company she did not control. Criminals took over her PayPal account and executed more than $1 million in fraudulent transactions in a matter of days. She was left with lawsuits and the impossible task of proving she was not responsible. The system did not protect her. It treated the attacker as if they were her. Once the criminals took control, every part of her digital life became a liability. Her experience shows how quickly identity theft escalates when private data is exposed and attackers move fast. Stories like hers highlight the human cost. Victims describe identity theft as losing control of their own lives. They face financial damage, long recovery times, and legal hurdles. Repairing the consequences involves banks, credit bureaus, telcos, government agencies, and private companies. Every institution has its own process, and none of them are designed for speed or empathy. Privacy laws might limit future misuse, but they do not reverse the damage already done. Online privacy advice often tells people to be careful, but the truth is simple. You cannot be careful enough when someone else mishandles your data on your behalf. Identity theft keeps spreading because criminals operate inside a global service economy. Breach data is bought in bulk from underground markets. Automated bots run credential stuffing attacks, trying stolen username and password combinations against dozens of services at once. AI tools generate forged documents and fake selfies. Fraud tutorials circulate in private chat groups and forums. The attacker no longer needs skill. They only need determination and a small amount of money to access the same kits everyone else is using. Identity theft works because digital identity systems were designed for convenience, not resilience, and criminals have learned exactly where the weak points are. Technology widens that attack surface every year. Cheap computing makes brute force attacks trivial. Cloud services make powerful AI models accessible to anyone with a credit card. Social engineering is supercharged by tools that can draft believable emails, clone writing styles, or generate voices that sound like a trusted colleague or family member. Biometric verification was supposed to be stronger than passwords, but deepfakes and synthetic faces are catching up quickly. When a face or a voice can be generated on demand, the security value of that biometric trait drops sharply unless the verification system also evolves. People still want to know what they can do in the middle of all this. The basics matter more than ever. Password reuse has to go. Every important account needs its own strong, unique password stored in a password manager. Hardware security keys block most automated attacks and make phishing far less effective. Passkeys reduce the danger from stolen login data. Telco accounts need extra pins and security questions so staff cannot be manipulated easily. Freezing credit files stops criminals from opening new loans or lines of credit. Monitoring accounts helps detect early signs of takeover before they snowball. Reducing your exposure also means cleaning up your digital past. Old accounts that are no longer used should be closed. Email addresses that are tied to sensitive services should not be sprayed across random websites. Many countries allow people to request removal from some data broker lists and marketing databases. Exercise your right to be forgotten if you have it. None of these steps are perfect, but each one removes a small slice of your attack surface and forces a criminal to work harder for the same result. Looking ahead, the future of identity theft looks even more complex. Criminal groups will use AI agents to scan for weaknesses across every service a person uses, from forgotten shopping accounts to niche financial apps. Biometric spoofing will become cheaper and easier to access. Synthetic identities will grow more sophisticated as attackers blend real data, like a genuine national ID number, with invented names and contact details. Those composites can fool systems that rely too heavily on a narrow set of checks. The line between a real identity and a synthetic one will continue to blur. That has consequences not only for individual victims but also for banks, insurers, and governments that rely on stable identity records. When a record can be quietly altered or a convincing duplicate can be created, trust in the system starts to erode. Investigations become harder, disputes become more common, the cost of cleaning up each incident continues to rise. The deeper issue is that identity has become a digital asset floating across systems that were never designed to work together. People leave trails wherever they go. Those trails create maps that criminals use to replicate their targets. The battlefield is no longer physical. It sits inside your data shadow, made of old forms, leaked databases, tracking logs, and profile pictures. Defending your identity now requires more than a single tool. It needs a mindset that assumes data will leak sooner or later and focuses on limiting the damage when it does. That means minimizing what you share, diversifying how you log in, building habits that make account recovery easier, and pushing companies and regulators to treat private data as something that can cause real harm if mishandled. That is the reality of digital identity theft today. The next step is understanding how to shrink your attack surface, demand better protections from the organizations that hold your data, and claim more digital autonomy in a world that keeps trying to turn your identity into a product.